ora koutou. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Epic Aotearoa Create a Better Future podcast, and in particular, this series, In the Service of Others, Who Dares Wins. Both co-founders, Brian Osman and myself, Joe Hortai, privileged to have our special guest today. Our guest today is a former member of the Western Australian Police Force, having served 23 years, including general duties, close personal protection, undercover unit, and 15 years in the Tactical Response Group, better known as the TRG. He is the director of two successful businesses, namely SAW Consulting and Home Building Solutions. And most importantly, he is a loving husband and father. Ladies and gentlemen, Aotearoa, the one and only Todd Bowler. Welcome, brother.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brian.
No worries. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you.
Mate.
Makes me sound a little bit old, that intro, but that's right.
That's all right. We try to do that to everybody. No, no, but mate, very, from my perspective anyway, a very impressive resume. Speaking from a level of service perspective from my side, and 23 years. That sort of, mate, I want to dive straight into it. That sort of leads me into my first couple of questions for you, two-pronged here. First one is, why did you join the police force then, and what caused you to stay in for so long, like the 23 years?
Okay, yeah. So I guess out of school, you know, I've worked with people who've gone, yep, I was going to join the police, or I was focused on the military from, 12 years old. I was more into surfing and hanging out at the beach and whatever the lifestyle may be at the time. So I pretty much, I got through the end of school and I was really in limbo. I was looking at even firefighters, to be honest,
Right.
because dare I say it, they had the lifestyle of potentially sleeping on night shift and going surfing during the day. So there's a bit of a theme running there. But then I think my dad saw through that, and he sent me off to do a public service exam. So I ended up doing this exam and doing a bit of a apprenticeship with the public service.
Right.
Still not knowing what I wanted to do, but the hours worked, flexi time and things like that. So I did that for about 4 years. I was at Social Security, we called it, or Centrelink now in WA, which is all the unemployment type benefits.
Yeah.
It was it was interesting work for me because it was a different side of the world, and some of the rougher areas of Perth and things, that a lot of drugs and stuff going on, and met a lot of people that were just a different sort of environment, I suppose. But
Yeah, okay.
from that, I suppose, and maturing at the time, led me to think like I actually wanted to, rather than handing out checks and helping people behind the counter, I actually wanted to get involved and make a bit of a difference. That sounds cliche, doesn't it? But make a difference, but really get involved in the action side of it, and be able to do more than I could from behind a desk. So policing became the obvious choice from there.
Wow.
So I really had no intention of heading that way, but
Yep.
probably about the age of, I think it was 20, I ended up signing up for the police and getting through there, and haven't looked back since. So as far as, well, until the last couple of years.
Couple of years, because you've only recently transitioned out, fully.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've been doing things part-time while I was in the police, and then I've transitioned out to try the new world. But your question about 23 years and why so long, I guess, what I found with the police, I think a lot of people have found, is there's so much variety. So in the early days, a lot of people end up walking the beat and doing things around Northbridge area, nightclub strips and things like that. So that was a real eye-opener for me. Everything is an eye-opener in the police at the start. So walking the beat, dealing with just a lot of alcohol and violence and things like that is, at my age now, I'm like, oh, gives me a shudder. But at the time, it was like, awesome, where's the next podcast? I was always, rightly or wrongly, I always wanted to be the first one to whatever it was. So if there was a fire, I'd be the first one running into it. But it was exciting times, and walking the beat and doing things there. That got a bit frustrating after maybe 3 or 4 years of not the actual, the exciting jobs are the exciting jobs in the general duties type policing, but there's a lot of time in between where you're negotiating with people at 2 a.m. who've been drinking alcohol since lunchtime, and that sort of stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
And when you're on your third year in a row of doing that, and everyone you're negotiating with thinks they're in charge, they pay your salary and all this sort of stuff. So, that sort of stuff gets to you. So yeah, after that, 4 years, I was time to try some specialist areas. So ended up
Nice.
starting with the close personal protection stuff with the state security, we called it at the time.
Right.
And that was good. That was a different skill set, and initially it was quite good. Then it's got a little bit. There wasn't much happening as far as action, and which was what I was looking for. So
Yeah.
the majority of the action there was if the Prime Minister was entering the lobby of a hotel, you had to make sure the lift was opening on time. So he stepped straight in. So that got a bit old. And then tactical response group came up, and I guess my desire to do that sort of work had been building over the years. It wasn't something I'd even thought about joining the police.
Right.
And then just as I saw, I'd spoken to a few people who, in general duties, had gone like, the only reason I joined the police is tactical response. Why else would you do it? I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. So it started in the back of the mind.
Yeah.
But then, by the time I jumped into that, it was probably 6 or 7, I'm losing track of time there, 6 years in, I suppose. And then
Yep.
had a funny start to that, I suppose. I did selection with the TRG, and back in those days at the sort of military training areas that the regiment guys use and stuff, so it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I actually got through it was a week-long selection at the time. So I got through that, a lot of bumbling through stories and, not really knowing what was coming up. At the time, and I think the regiment here in WA was similar, where they wouldn't give you anything when you're going to selection. So TRG was the same, like you know nothing, you just go and, we'll throw it at you and you'll find out. So yeah, I did that first selection. I do remember the first. We got driven out into this middle of nowhere training camp in a bus in the dark at midnight. Windows are all blacked out, watches are gone, no idea what's happening, and we had packs. So I had my pack, and they'd go. First thing they did was yell at us to get off the bus, line up, throw your packs in a line. So we throw our packs in a line in the dark, run across 50 metres to the left, line up. Now knowing that there was people watching us from the bushes and all sorts, at the time it was like, I don't know what's going on. So we lined up for we probably lined up for 40 minutes just in the silence in the dark, and then me being one of the foolish ones just wandered off into the bushes to have a bit of a relieve yourself, and then wander back while they're all studying us. But then we get these barking orders out of nowhere, like, grab your packs, let's go. And we're like, oh my God, where's my pack? And this is a bundle of packs. Police probably a little bit different to military, where we don't live with packs every day, and we don't. It's not necessarily our thing. So I thought I had my pack pretty sorted, but unfortunately I got some other guy's pack who's. I was basically doing up straps as I walked for the next hour and a half.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, but bumbled through that. Got through selection and onto the waiting list for TRG, and it was pretty much a time when no one was leaving TRG for the next couple of years. So end up on a waiting list for TRG for probably 1.5, 2 years, and then they said, all right, we're cutting the list. It's been too long. You guys can apply again. So sure enough, stubbornly applied again. Knew a bit more about what was going on the next time. So.
Yep.
Still just as painful, but enjoyed it a bit more and knew what was happening, and got through that one and ended up in the unit for 15 years with a bit of a undercover stint in the middle there. So
man, that's awesome, man. What a great story. And just so you piqued my interest there when you spoke about not only the selection, but so you're on a waiting list for 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, it was a funny time. I'm trying to remember the years, but. It was before all the Iraq private security work came up and all that sort of stuff, when everyone did start leaving. But guys weren't going anywhere, so there would have been 8 of us on the list at the time. Going back for the occasional training period, but after 2 years of minimal training and etc., they just decided someone made the decision and cut the list and restart. So
Right.
yeah, it was a decision high up, and weren't happy with it. But I didn't know anything about what goes on at the place at the time. And you just accept it and move on to the next one that comes up. Yeah. So
Good for you. And how many started on the first selection, and how many finished? And then the same for the second time when you did it. How many started? How many finished? Or roughly, if you can.
yeah, I guess applications, and this is quite common for TRG side of it, is probably 100, 80 to 100 applications usually for a selection course. That gets whittled down with a pre-selection, so it'd be a one-day pre-selection, including pack march times and obstacle course time trials and things like that. It's a bit of a swim test. It seems to take out some people as well, some logs. But yeah, that gets whittled down to 30 who had actually done some good preparation and will be quite competitive on the actual selection course. Getting through selection is normally around 10, I'd say, and then I'd say a little bit different, and I obviously haven't been on a regiment selection, but I was talking to you before how we've been very fortunate in WA with TRG side of it to be included and invited along with a lot of things with the SAS guys here, and they share a lot of things, so it's awesome, and the skills they've got and the knowledge. So, but they look at their selection compared to ours. We have a much shorter period to select people and go through that physical pain and then work out their personalities and things like that. So our selection tends to overflow into we call it the close quarter tactics course, which goes for now 10 weeks.
Gotcha.
And definitely the first section of that is still working out who's who, as well as training skills and things like that. But we haven't necessarily decided 100% you're the ones we want. We still have to iron out the details. So, but at the end of that, and how those sort of courses work, people pick it up or they fall behind. We're probably usually around 5 at the end of the day. So starting with 100 and usually about 5, maybe 6. Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
Man. And then you went through that the second time, and you just thought, oh, okay, that it is what it is. I just got to do it again because they've said.
Yeah, I just think everything's a test, whether it is or not.
This sounds familiar.
I have heard this before as well, but a lot of things you guys say resonate with me. It's like, oh, this is all a test, they just want to see if I can do it again. But really, they're probably just like, oh, let's just scrap it and start again. But
so, did you go relieve yourself a second time?
No, I was after they crawled out of the bushes. I was like, "Damn it, we're being watched." Yeah.
So that was true. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm slow, but I'm clever eventually.
I like that. I'm slow, but I'm clever eventually. Yeah. I was going to say, did you relieve yourself? You didn't happen to get anybody that was watching you in the bushes while you were relieving yourself, because that,
Well, I think they've got good discipline. If I did. I don't know.
No, mate, that's awesome. Wow. And that's such a great insight. Thanks for sharing that, particularly around the selection, but also just a little bit about your mindset, because I think what's important and what I find has been helpful is that there's a lot of similarities, and I'd love for you to speak a little bit about that, what your experiences were in the TRG and those the wonderful people that you had the opportunity to serve with, but also the unique differences. Like, if I use your example, it wasn't one of those things like Bill we had on this podcast. Since he was 7, it was something that he dreamed about doing, going to the unit, but yours was sort of like surfing and doing the other things that you were enjoying. And then your dad said, no, you're going to do this. Was it public service course?
Public service, yeah.
Public service, and then you went on to that, and then just as you found yourself in those environments with Centrelink and that sort of stuff, and I guess the situations that you saw triggered something in you, which then led to this long and really hopefully it was fulfilling. I should ask you that. Well, how was your service? Did you find it fulfilling, Todd?
Yeah, it was. I never would have stayed if I wasn't getting, if it wasn't something in it the whole time. Towards the end, I probably felt like, I wasn't getting the growth I needed to get out of it, and I wasn't there for me, but I was still feeling like I needed to get something else out of it. Very much like the last 10 years at TRG, I was instructing on CQT courses and instructing on just about everything. But the most fulfilling times I had, which is quite funny because it there's all these adventures and mishaps and big jobs and shootings and things like that. One of the most fulfilling times was, the Claremont serial killer. We grabbed him, and it wasn't an unusual job for us. It was interesting, but it was more the fact that I started my police career when he was out, killing the Perth area, and everyone in WA knows of it. I'm not sure how international it is, but just that feeling of actually, 20 whatever years it was later. Actually grabbing the guy and knowing that it is the guy, and it's been proven in court. So that was quite bizarre, but that was just fulfilling to put a cap on a story or whatever.
On that link.
And then another one. It's quite funny. I got dobbed in to do these almost like a raw show duties, and it's not the prime job you want. But I was with a young guy there, and we took our armoured car there, and the kids could jump in and out of it. So like, oh my god. So I actually, because I was with the young guy, I kept my distance. I was about 10 metres away from the armoured car, and he was busy. It was good for his growth.
Yeah, good for his growth. I like it.
But then this girl came up, and she was in the line. She had a dog, a PTSD dog with her, and she had a carer with her, and she was. I saw a couple of people ask if they could pat the dog, and the carer was saying, no, you just have to stay away, but thanks for asking. And then I edged in just to keep people away if need be, if that was the issue. And then when I got near her, she goes, oh, can you jump in the car with me? And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Jump in the back of the armoured car, and then she gets the dog in there with her, and she goes, oh, can you hold the dog while I jump around here? And I'm holding the dog, and then, oh, can we have a photo together? And she's getting a photo. But it was interesting because to me it was like one of those positive experiences, but probably after 23 years, but after all the darker side of the drugs and the guns and all that, just constant, I suppose, just to have a positive someone. This girl had latched on to me, and she wasn't concerned, and she wasn't concerned about the public in general, but she was happy to hang out with me and let me hold a dog and stuff. So it was really weird. At that point, I was like, oh man, I haven't had many positive things go on in the police.
Yeah,
it's good to have one of them in 23 years.
Man.
So,
Todd, I'm actually positive there are, but do you find that like to do that type of role requires a certain mindset? So what I'm getting at, what I'm hearing is that yes, you like the adventure, the excitement. There was that, but
he likes the dust ups.
Oh, he likes the dust ups. Yeah. Yes.
Not with you, Joe. I'll see you. Yeah.
He likes the dust up, but there's that. But that must obviously wear a bit after a while. But so there's obviously something else going on up here that keeps you in that. So have you ever thought about, or if you were able to nail it down to what that driver was for you?
Yeah, I suppose the benefit of being in for quite a while is I did a lot of thinking about, what, and I always, as part of my role as instructing, I'd think about what drives people, including myself, because that was a big one. And for me, it was, I want to be first in the door, because if something goes wrong, I want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy next to me first in the door and something goes wrong with him. And particularly when I had the experience and knowledge for a lot of things, like I want to be there looking after the other guys and be that guy who's in the action first and helping out and whatever, because of the guys next to me or whatever. So the last thing I'd want to do is hesitate, let the other guy go and him get into strife. So that was the big driver. It was just that. It wasn't, there's the mission that you got to focus on and things like that. But it definitely wasn't the management. It wasn't what they were asking. It was just that guy next to you, and just making sure it all went well for everyone else on the team. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That is powerful, because it again, it's resonating with some of the other podcasts we've had, and they've talked about
100%.
Yeah, and your teammates being everything. The mission is critical, but your teammates are everything, which is something that Joe shared with me a while ago, and phrased it. But it also highlights to me that how much you put others first. That's what it sounds like to me. So tip the hat to you, Todd. That's an awesome mindset to have. But also, I guess it also highlights to all of us that, you know, the police, however you may view police officers, right? But they're there generally to serve and to help and to make sure that people feel comfortable, like the girl with the PTS dog, that they see a trusted figure, generally speaking. So yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I will say, like, police, you know, they get themselves in trouble sometimes, and definitely now with cameras and body-worn cameras now and everything like that. But I always look at it as what's happened to that guy and that police officer in the last 4 years. There's a lot of build-up that goes on. I had, probably, dare I say it, I'm sure the time is up now that I can say things like this, but there was points there where I was walking the beat, so 3-4 years in, where I remember I had this young guy came out of a nightclub. He was no trouble. He was no Mr. Big major criminal or anything. He was just drunk and he'd been swearing, carrying on. So we had to get him off the street, basically take him to the lockup, and he'd get charged with disorderly and then let go. And but he'd be off Northbridge because he just wouldn't. We'd given him all the warnings. So, but it was just such a simple one. And I was talking to him. I was saying, "All right, mate, just what have you got in your pockets?" And he pulls out a lighter straight away. And I'm like, "All right, just hand over the lighter." He's like, "Nah, you're not having the lighter." I worked out very quickly that I had a lot built up and I needed to have annual leave soon. But he's like, he goes, I go, "Mate, I don't need to get into this. We'll just need the lighter and then we'll jump in the car and it'll all be good." And he's like, "Nah, no way you're having the lighter." And it just kept going and going. Ended up, because we had all sorts of bad stuff going in the back of cages when you leave stuff in there. So ended up having to put him in he started arcing up a bit. So we put him in the pod in the back of the cage of the van. And he was just clenching this thing with his fist. So I ended up in the back of the van. I was sitting on his head and I was just had his fist and I was just trying to crush the lighter out of it. Yeah. And the other cops I was with, they saw it and they kind of crowded around the back of the van. So there wasn't any viewing going on. But I came out with like a splinter of a lighter. And the guy was going, "What just happened?" And then I just said to the sergeant who was around the van, it was a pretty good team I was with. So they were like, "Yeah. Cool." And I said, "I'm going to book leave now." But I see that with so many, all these cops, and they're professional and they're supposed to do the right thing all the time. But sometimes there's just that build up. What's the 12th person they've talked to that night, and there are those things that do get them in trouble. And I was a bit lucky with mobile phones weren't around then. So.
Todd, I do have to ask though, like when you put it in the back of the paddy wagon, do you find the street in like the CBD that has the most speed bumps? And of course you go slightly over.
Do you do that?
Well, as part of the vehicle testing is but
good.
I would never. No.
Shocking to think.
It's a good question though. But
I just thought of some stories, not me, but yeah. Scrap those.
Mate, I really appreciate you, or we really appreciate you sharing that, because that in and of itself as well also helps paint a picture for our listeners, whether they're serving members or not serving members, to hopefully have a bit better idea about there's, like you said, there's build up and stuff that's happening to these moments and situations, maybe not all the time, but probably a large majority of the time. And if people could take the time, difficult to do when they're in an intoxicated state though, I realize, if they could take the time to understand that, or have the conversation, like you said, just give us a light and everything will be fine, just hop in the back and it'll be a cruisy ride. But to have those situations, and then I guess I liken that to that's the front line. That's the stuff that's happening that you need to deal with, you and your peers need to deal with. And then you get the peanut gallery that might be from the outside that don't understand what's happening. And it's a good thing that the smartphones weren't around at that time with regards to that particular incident. But those sorts of things, even today, there's always a backstory. Now, granted, we're not going to get into the politics of some of the stuff that's happened in America and those sorts of things, but I think it's really, you've highlighted some really good points, which my takeaways for me is that, there's background stories to everybody. There's probably some build up that's happening. And the easiest thing is to try not to, well, easier said than done, try not to get in that mistake in the first place or get into that situation in the first place and avoid that drama. Man, some great points, but just, yeah, there's a lot of takeaways in there that I'm gleaning from you. And so I want to ask you about life in the TRG. I'm going to skip forward to that, and then I'll probably come back to some of your general duty stuff because you've been speaking a little bit about that. But what did your time in the TRG, because 15 years is a long time, obviously a lot of experience and stuff in training, the next generations and stuff that have come through, and things are going really well. What else did it teach you? Or were you married? Sorry, my first question, were you married while you were in the TRG?
Yeah, I was only about a year about a year, maybe 2 years. Yeah,
Into the start of your 15 years of...
before I started TRG. Yeah, probably a year
Yeah,
before I
right.
started. Yeah.
And so how was that relationship wise for you and for your spouse, like in terms of the connection or communication and that sort of stuff? Because I would imagine there's lots of stuff you can't speak about.
Yeah, I probably took it to the next level of not telling her anything. And I apologise for that. And my wife Jamie, yeah, she's a nurse, so she's seen a few things herself, thank God. But
yeah,
that's why she's still around. But yeah, I some of the stuff, yeah, I would not say anything and just just say I'll be home in 3 days. Whereas there is more that I could have said a lot of times. There's a lot of things I've learned through my career as well that I could have done better at the start. So there was that. It's funny as well, the TRG evolved and changed in a lot of ways while I was in that 15 years. But at the start, it was a lot of big alpha male type things going on, and it was that sort of environment. So I kind of blended into that environment with my 73 kilo frame, and but attitude wise, it was a very dare I say manly place to be. So everyone was cursing and chest puffing, a bit of that sort of stuff going on. And I remember one time my wife came. She must have been in at work one time. We had her partners in or something, and she saw me. I forgot she was watching, and I must have been talking to some of the guys. She's like, "You're like, you guys are totally different people when you talk to each other to when you get home." Or like, when I get home, I'm back into surfing mode and whatever. But at work, I'm like, "Oh, how you going?" Like, but yeah, it was just blending in with the environment. I suppose you can't help it not. Yeah, but communication-wise, definitely got a lot better at it towards the end than at the start. And a lot more self-aware as far as that goes as well. So
nice. That's good to hear you say that. What advice would you give to younger couples or people coming, like the landscape may have changed like prior to you getting out, because you only got out 2019, right?
Yep.
So there may have, you've probably seen a whole lot of advancements and stuff, but maybe not. Maybe there's still some young people that you've seen come through and you've seen, go, man, yeah, I was like that, or that's how I was. What advice would you look to give from a relationship perspective? And I guess I'll just try to give some context. It's not the easiest being in a relationship in the role that you do. Very similar to other lifestyles and stuff in general. So it's probably challenging being in a relationship in general, right? But particularly in something such as the TRG, which in my very limited experience, it would be a need to keep a lot of very sensitive information private. You can't discuss or talk about a lot in terms of work, and like how's your day sort of conversation is sort of non-existent, if that makes sense. But as you said, you learned a few things and got better at that towards the end. What would be some key bits of advice that you would give to younger guys maybe coming through, or girls that are coming through into that TRG environment and world, and who may be in a relationship?
I would say and it is hard when you start even now, but it's a different environment where you can speak about a lot more and even mention your feelings every now and then, and you don't get destroyed. So, but I would say try and bring your partner along for the ride as much as you can. So it might just be humour about the day, or what went wrong, or training sessions, funny stories, things like that. But just bring up something. Don't just you go to work, you come home, you're like, yep, how you going? Moved on from work, silence, kind of silence, all that sort of stuff. There are things that you can talk about, so it does make a big difference long term to just let them know so they feel like they're part of it, I suppose.
Nice.
So less of a bumpy road as we go, But like you say, having a relationship is probably a hard thing in itself. So just made it a little bit harder by not being able to talk about some things. But don't do it as extreme as I did. Feel free to talk about some things that you can talk about, I would say,
Nice.
That's kind of like what Moff was talking about when we did interview with Harry Moffat, and he was saying having something. I'm pretty sure it was him. He said having that third thing outside of the unit.
He was saying something about that. Yeah.
So it's kind of in that sense is making sure that you have that communication, something that's outside of that, but you should be able to connect that. But I can imagine how challenging it would be, because like Joe's talked about this, you're talking about this now, Todd, when there's only certain amount of things you can share, or that you're willing to share because the environment and the culture around it kind of pushes it that way. But I'm glad you talked about that, because communication is obviously key for a relationship. Right? I mean, all things being equal, but to hear you to articulate that it's okay to talk about this, it's okay to be able to share this, and it just makes you come across as more human and more vulnerable to to your significant other. That makes a lot of sense.
I just hope you don't have to get to 46 years of age before you work that out. There's different generations coming through now. I think they're better at it, but
Well, let's hope so. And I think through experiences and leaders like yourself that have been able to be there and help with the training and the molding and shaping of those that are in those units now, is a testament to that, and hopefully they can glean and learn from that. What I will say before I ask you a question about funny things, just remind me, Brian. So funny things is the next topic I want to get onto. But what I wanted to mention around just that advice and the information that you've given, there are things that can be shared that you can find a way if you think about it, which sort of ties into what you just shared here. Bring them along, bring something up, find something that you can talk about, and if we give it a little bit of thought, there are things that we can talk about, whether it's talking about our own mistakes. I stuffed up when I come down the rope, or whatever it was I was doing. I didn't do this properly, and it can at least help, like you said, the spouse or the significant other feel that some way a little bit more connected, that they don't have to carry it on their own. You don't have to carry it on your own. You can talk about some of that stuff. So funny things. That was one of the next things, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. Are there, because I know that you have shared some stuff, but I don't want to blurt it out. Would you mind sharing with us some of, and I know there'd be so many over a 23-year span, but what are a couple of things, maybe one or two things that come to mind that you can share with us that might cause a bit? I know it caused Brian and I to laugh out loud when we read the email, but and I'm sure it will for our audience and stuff as well. But those things as well also paint that human side to you as an individual, but also to a degree, the lifestyle. So the stage is yours with some funny stuff that's happened, mate.
No, well, there's nothing funny has ever happened, and I've never made a mistake. That's a story, but the real story. So I mean, for me, and I self-depreciating humour is my thing. It actually started, I would say, exciting, but probably badly. My first year at TRG, because I'd done the close personal protection work before I got there. I remember we took a group of new guys out training and doing some close personal protection driving and following cars and J-turns and things. So J-turns wasn't on the training schedule, but
you included it.
I included it last minute. So we ended up down at in probably City Beach, down at the car park across the road from the beach. And we just pulled in because we'd finished our convoy driving. And I said, okay, guys, this is a pretty good car park. I'll show you how J-turn works. And they're like, are you sure about that? I'm like, yeah, no worries, because we're in a four-wheel drive, and I've done it in four-wheel drives before and things like that. Bit top-heavy, but all worked out well the last few times. So
no reason it shouldn't this time.
No, other than good point that you bring up. Other than the fact we'd been forward driving a couple of days before, and we'd let the tyres down and pump the tyres up. So the tyres were not optimum pressure, I would say.
Yeah.
But with the kick test, they seemed pretty good. So I kept one of the guys he's been with me through a lot of failings for some reason. We're always in the car together. He's gone, oh yeah, cool, I'll sit in the car, and the other guys are going, I'm out. And they set out, kept their distance. They're like, oh cool, watch this J turn. And this guy even said he's about 130 kilos solid, and he's gone, oh, do we need to put a seatbelt on? I'm like, nah, don't worry about it. We're just going to whip around and keep going. So there's so many things. It's like crossroads everywhere. And then I've gone, oh, no worries. So I've put in reverse, floored it, getting up to about 40, 50 k's an hour in reverse, taken the foot off the accelerator, got the weight off the front of the car, whipped the steering wheel around, and it started coming around like it should. And then it's like getting angle. And because the tyres are flat, the rims have actually carved like a U shape into the bitumen. And then we've gone bang, bang, bang. Just keep going. Oh my God. And in the car, I don't know, it was something like this. We're just bouncing off each other and ended up on the driver's side, I think it was. So he's gone. I went to push up, I remember, to get off the window that I was laying on. And he's gone, are you all right? And I felt the bone move in the collarbone. I'm like, nah, not great. And then, but then he climbed out and go, let's get out quick because this is going to start hurting in a sec. So kind of one arm climbed out with a bit of help and got over to the side of the road. And I don't know, do I bring up? I'll bring up this next story. Can always edit it later.
Go on. Yeah.
The next part of the story. So this is going to sound bad, but it seemed good at the time, and I blame the injury. But we walked over about 50 metres away from the car and looking at the car on the side, and I'm like, I'm squatting down, holding my collarbone. I'm like, okay, before the pain kicks in, this is what happened. There was a blue ute doing a burnout, and I went to turn around to chase it, and the wheels went pumped up, and we rolled, and that was the story. Yeah. So everyone goes, yep, cool, yep, story, yep. And this was policing back in the day. That wasn't dropping everyone in now.
So no names here.
No names. And then the boss, two of the bosses came down, and they were ex-operators, and they know exactly how we work and how we think. And the first guy goes, "There's a blue ute." He's like, "Shut up." And then the next guy goes, "Yeah, boss, there was a blue ute." He's like, "I don't want to hear it." And he comes out and he goes like, "Just tell us what happened. It was a training incident." I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing a J10." And it's like, "Yep, training accident, written off, no worries." There's a few lessons there, but I don't know which one. But yeah, that was 1 year into it, I was just like, "Oh, I've written off a car already," and a few tragic things, and it kind of spiraled from there over the 15 years. So I think,
Todd, was that the go-to? So there was a blue ute, boss. There was a blue ute.
There was a blue ute.
There was a blue ute.
Dare I say it? There's also a black dog. The black dog. We turned it into there was a blue ute with a black dog in the back.
Blue ute with a black dog. Yeah, come on. Why not? Did the colours change every now and then of the vehicles?
Yeah. Three blue, red, yellow ute with a black dog. The dog is always black. That's important.
Okay, Sam. Okay. What about hey? So you obviously you spent some time obviously as well with with royalty as well, and you took them around. Who was it? Prince Harry, William.
Prince Harry, yeah.
Prince Harry. What happened there? You took him. You got him a Macca's discount and all that sort of stuff. The police McDonald's discount.
Well, that's the thing. Some would brag about their time with Prince Harry, but I'll give you, he was a good guy actually, and this is around the time when the tabloids were saying he's just a party animal, whatever.
Right.
We had him over here. I can't remember what year it was, but the Rugby World Cup was on, so he went to a couple of the games over here, and then we took him to a pub in Perth, like to watch one of the games, which was interstate. Right. And basically he just had a cap on and kept his cap down low, and we sat at the back of the pub and whatever. And I was doing the driving for that one. So he did a low key sit there, watch the whole game, and towards the end of the game, people were like, "Hang on, And then it was like time to go. But so that was all good. But then, yeah, as we took off, it was about 10 o'clock at night, and we're heading through area of Belmont and just talking about, oh, what are we going to get to eat? And Macca's drive-through came up. So we drove through the Macca's drive-through, and while we're waiting, one of the guys, protection guys, and there's a couple of UK protection guys in the car as well, they go, well, you guys get a discount? I'm like, yeah, get a discount. So we ended up, I think we got five McDonald's meals, and I've kind of half flashed the badge on the way in, and we got the 50% off. And so Prince Harry got his first ever 50% Macca's discount in Perth. So I'm sure it's his claim to fame.
That's right. That's right. Did he enjoy his meal? Do you know?
I think he enjoyed it. I probably appreciated the value, like the 50%. That's a good deal.
Good deal. All right. Hey, I was going to ask you as well. Is there anything you would change about your service, whether that was in the TRG or in the police force? If you could have changed anything or done something differently, is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, and probably listening to your podcast was interesting because you're saying the way you left a little bit was, with management type issues and a little bit of headbutting maybe. But
it was just more me being arrogant and stupid. The management that I had were really good people. I just couldn't see it at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So TRG is interesting management where we get different bosses in for 2 or 3 years at a time, and they revolve around. Majority of them are never been in TRG before. They've been in like running detectives' offices and things like that. So the culture that they come from is where they're ranked senior sergeant, inspector, whatever it may be. They say jump and everybody jumps and all this sort of stuff happens.
Gotcha.
And the culture, definitely from when I started at TRG, was the guys on the ground with the experience. Like it was, you didn't wear rank. Rank wasn't an issue. It was like if you've been there longer, then listen to that guy because he knows what's going on.
Yeah.
That changed a bit over time. Rank came in a lot more. But it was still there's guys on the ground that had done 10, 15 years around that time that had been through, we've done all this training, particularly had the benefit of the regiment guys, training with them, and we've done all these jobs and learnt from all these things.
Yeah.
And then we get the new boss comes in who says, right, this is how we're going to run it. And it's
far out.
So we'd spend, you're almost guaranteed a year and a half of butting heads.
Yeah.
And then half a year of negotiating, and then maybe the last year or a bit less of smooth sailing, and the next boss comes in.
And then you got to do it all again.
Then you got to do it all again. So for me, probably quite stubborn where I knew how I wanted things to go, but to the point where if one of the new bosses would say, this is how we're doing it, particularly if he said it, barking orders, and it wasn't urgent, I'd be like, well, no worries, boss, but we've tried that and we've done that, and what about this way? Like, nah. And then I'd be like, they can't tell me that. There's so many, just dealing with management, and when I think about it, I was trying to help the new guys and everything, and trying to help the place evolve, and training and equipment get better and things like that. That could have been done so much better just by working with the bosses, no matter who they are, and just easing them into their different culture and things like that. But my fallback for the majority of the time was, they're wrong. This is how we've done it, and their fallback would have been, well, they can't tell us that. They're wrong. And so, the amount we achieved could have been so much more. And a lot of years spent, a lot of energy spent on things that could have worked a lot more smoothly, I'd say. So everyone with good intentions from all sides, no doubt.
Yeah.
But that would definitely be a big one that I'd change for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Todd. That's great to hear. And hindsight's a beautiful thing, eh? And if only we could have fast forward and see those things, or go back in time and speak to ourselves, that sort of takes that question out of this particular conversation with yourself. But really pleased to hear you talk about those aspects. I want to, from my side, sorry, Brian, I'll let you jump in.
No. Sorry, I'm sorry, Joe. I was.
Go on then.
Okay, I'll jump in just quickly. I'm still fixated on Harry doing a Macca's run.
You want to know what he ordered, didn't you?
Yeah. What is it?
Good question.
I'll give you a quarter pounder meal. My memory's a little bit hazy though, so you might pull me up on it.
But lightweight, I'll take that. But no, sorry. That was I was thinking about. It's interesting because I just saw in reading through some of your brief, and there's the thing you wrote, making the place better than when I arrived, and it's something you wrote down, and just listening to you talk, I was going, man, that's exactly what I'm hearing, and isn't that interesting? Yeah, we may butt heads, we may be in a place where the things are not going the way we'd like it, we disagree with others, but ultimately we want to leave the place better than when we arrived. That actually helps build I think, a better culture overall, longer term than just, oh, look, it's all about me. I'm the biggest and the baddest. Would that be fair?
Yeah, and I'm going to give full credit to the All Blacks legacy book. I think those words are from there, but it's because it resonates so much. But yeah, a lot of their value, one of the values they've got is leaving the place better than when you found it, and that's 100%. Yeah, and I think if everyone thinks that way, you're guaranteed you're laughing. So
that's a great point. Great comment too, Brian. Good to know it was the quarter pounder. As well. Good to know. But yeah, no, those are really and they're powerful words, and I really like that when I read that as well. Like Brian was just saying when he read in your brief, and it seems to come through just with everything that you've touched on and spoken about so far, which is probably a nice sort of transition into. I want to speak a little bit about, so you started developing, was it both the businesses, SAW Consulting and Home Building Solutions, 5 years prior to getting out? Was that right, Todd? Or?
Initially SAW Consulting. So my dad he's been a business strategy type coach for 20 years plus beforehand. So he, which is funny because I didn't really know what he did when he went to work, but the more I worked with him, the more I realised how much all these businesses are hunting him, and I love what he does, and I see what he does. I'm like, man, it's like voodoo magic. Brilliant. The stuff that he does, but a lot of experience with that. So he identified, like, I talked to him about some of the jobs and TRG stuff that we do in the planning and stuff. So he identified that so many businesses, they focus on their strategy, their vision, their mission, but they put so little focus on the actual execution. We call it tactical execution, basically. So it's all to do with basically the way we'd run it, and we have run it, is working with the executive team or whoever the senior management might be to work out what their goals may be and what their aligns with their vision, obviously, and what their primary goals may be. And then bringing that to the management team and the teams on the ground to run them through some planning as a team, and come out with their own, call it mission, but we call it objectives, just to change the terminology a bit, of what they want to achieve for these projects. And planning 90-day projects, basically, where they get to work as a team. They embed the values of the organisation, so really through action, they're working on the values as well. And we do things with them where we'll debrief throughout the project, and what can we do, what's going well, what can we do better, and then work with them to get them to open up to each other. And basically, by the end of the 90 days, the plan is that they've achieved their goals, or they've done something much better for the organisation, and they'll feel that sense of achievement. But two is that they're really working together as a, call it a high performance team, where they're really open communication, they trust each other, and they've got a small knit team within a big organisation kind of thing. And the differences have been huge from start to finish, and all going well. We'll do the next 90-day project with that business, and keep it flowing from there. So and we've really seen that some small teams, they get the values, they start really working together, but then everyone else in the organisation, others latch onto it, and they feel the vibe, they feel the motivation, everything going on. And it really improves the environment of the whole organisation by working in small teams and getting that team going. So it's been good to watch from an outside the policing point of view. It's
beautiful, man. That's an awesome, that I can picture that just in terms of what you're sharing, and it's great. Maybe if you can spend, well, you have already, but so this is the SAW consulting side of things that you've just described. And so you guys, who are the or you don't need to name the companies, but it sounds, is it quite corporate? You're looking after a number of corporate entities or companies and stuff that come to you guys for help?
Yeah, so there's some quite big national organisations. There's other
Nice.
like a couple of local councils,
Yeah.
and even some really small businesses where we get to work with the whole team basically. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's been a really good mix.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting learning the biggest jump for me was learning the business terminology. After a while, it's like they're saying the same sort of things, but initially it's like a lot of different words and terminology
Yeah.
going on.
Almost a
So
different
just
language. Yeah.
adapting. Yeah.
That's awesome. So did you do some study? Were you doing some study in business as well? Did you do that before or whilst you were serving in the police?
I've done Cert 4s and things like that. I've done
Yep.
part of a business degree, but no, I've got to do more study. I'm looking at different MBA options
Nice.
coming up, definitely to get more of a feel for the civilian
Yeah.
world and that sort of thing. So, but yeah,
Wicked.
that'll be coming up soon as well. Yeah.
Do you find that the way you approach, say, working, say, operationally with TRG, right, and then working and doing your consulting, and working with different corporates and councils and stuff, do you find that the energy it's still there, it's the same for you, but just from a different context? Do you find you still find it engaging?
Yeah, I just love anything to do with it. Seeing a team go from here to here and the difference in results that it makes. Like I'm coaching a surf boat crew that they're doing quite well, but just working with individuals, and this from years of CQT training as well, and things like that, working on individuals and what's going to motivate them and what's their drivers versus this is what suits the whole group. But the inspiration for me is just seeing the difference in results from start to finish. Slight differences definitely at the start. A lot of things you see where, and I spoke to someone else or one of the girls who was at TRG doing writing up a lot of our manuals and things. She got a good background in South African police and all this sort of stuff, but she loves that team environment. And I was talking to her about leaving. She even feels the hardship of leaving because she was with us for about 3 years. But she was saying the difference where she is now in policing tactical training at the academy is that at TRG everyone just fills the gaps and gets in and does it, and it doesn't need to be spoken most of the time. It's just like if that's not being done, someone's already in it before you blinked. And where she is now, it's people have to be told, or they'll just sit at the desk and wait to be told. So there is a bit of that in the private sector, and that definitely improves throughout the process for sure. But initially that's one of those things that you see. You're like, you could be. What else could you be doing right now? But,
Yeah.
So
interesting, man. Those are great points. I love how you spoke about some of the stuff that you guys are doing, but also how that transfers into teams developing this trust, because it's trust in one another, and then those smaller teams, they then either go into their organizations and then other people see those individuals and or that team working so effectively, and when you see that, you're like, I want a piece of that, and I want to be able to do that too. Like it's just it's a really cool thing to witness and see, and it can and it does and it is able to happen. Like it happens in the TRG, it can happen in the military, because the regiment these days, at least just speaking from Australia and even here in NZ to a degree, is they're much larger units than what they were when I was in anyway. I'm not sure what TRG is like overall. Is that quite a big entity like in WA?
It's not big. It's
Okay.
I'd say all up, including admin and everything else, support that goes with it, maybe 80 or so.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So,
wow. Yeah. Highly effective team. Very small, but smaller than what I was anticipating in my head for WA.
Yeah. No, and I see, like you're saying, the benefits of jumping in with the SAS guys here and things like that. The difference being a lot of the time, we kind of, you see them and they've got guys that are designated to go out and find venues for training and all this sort of stuff. We are like a small business to a big business. We do everything. We go out and find training, and then we're running training, or we're in training, and there's nothing you don't do.
Yeah. Wearing many hats, wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
Wow.
So remember what hat you're wearing.
Yeah. And just on that, actually, I didn't ask you, but again, I'll probably come back to this point because I'd love for you to speak a bit more. We haven't even spoken about the other company which you're a director of, which you spend quite a lot of time there too, which is amazing in terms of the work that you're doing in that home building solution space. But we'll come back to that. What was it like for you? Obviously, you went through 2 selections, completed and passed the first one, but it was only because there wasn't a lot of people leaving the unit, which now makes sense to me if there's only about 80 at the time. So then they just made a decision, well, you've got to do it again. You've done that. What was it like being on the other side of your selection for you and seeing candidates come through?
Oh, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it.
I've been, I was on the good side for a lot of years, and then I went and did a couple of courses where I was on the wrong side again. I'm like, I know what you're doing to us, but I can't do anything about it. And yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, it's just, I mean, the benefits of being on the course and on the CQT course is you're shooting millions of rounds and you're doing all these run-throughs, and there's so much time, effort, and money going into you. It's like like, I remember feeling like, oh man, this is such a bonus just to be, they're spending all their effort on us, and we're getting all these skills out of it. But then, yeah, later on being on the other side of it, the benefits of seeing, you just see so much. And I don't know what they were looking at when I was doing it. It'd be interesting.
Well, that's my next question, characteristics. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. And yeah, no, just being on the other side, I guess because I had so much to do with the CQT side of it and some to do with the selection. But I got to see all the different characters, and then particularly if you see them on selection, then carry through to CQT and then watch out for things. Like I say, we ran our CQT, especially in the first couple of weeks, as we're training them up, but we're also being wary of who we're working with, personality wise. And then so that was a tough point, because really, training them up, really you want to just go, I want to give them everything and train them, whoever it is, to the best of your ability. But sometimes you're thinking, oh, this guy, he's not a team player, he's whatever it may be that we isn't going to work here. But yeah, I kind of used to throw in, and I picked up something that Brian said in when you were getting interviewed, Brian, in your podcast, was I can't remember the wording you used, but the pressure is great for the training, but the too much pressure or overwhelm or stress is so bad for it. So my role, I used to see it as, there's a lot of instructors and people that, and students put the pressure on themselves massively as well. So there's natural pressure. My role was just to keep it lighthearted, while still keeping the safety aspect. But yeah,
I'm glad you said safety.
yeah. Had to be reminded of that every now and then. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, I saw that as really important, and I could see some people, particularly in the early years when I was instructing and watching out for these things, people would implode just on their own stress, let alone being told that they're doing a crap job and whatever, and they're just like, you see them over the period of a week or 2 weeks just fold up into their shell, and by the time they got told they were leaving, they were just like, oh, thank you. But if those same people, you could see where if they worked out how to relax, and they didn't think it was sheep stations all the time, or they they had their own pressure, they really flew through it sometimes. So that was my main priority towards him, was just to find that balance for everyone. If someone was not, if someone was mucking around, or a bit of a jokes or whatever, I wouldn't make it lighthearted for him. I'd keep him keep in that zone, I suppose, good learning zone. But yeah, got to see a lot of things and the way different people learn.
Nice.
Kinesthetic, audio, visual learners and things like that. But lots of learning through instructing, basically. Yeah.
Work it. Sorry, go, Brian.
Let's go. That's actually really fascinating to me, because it's like, Nick talked about increasing the bandwidth for operators and for yourselves to be able to do that, and you did that to some extent. We're talking about instructing as you instruct, but understanding your people that you're instructing and bringing the humor to it, because I often find when the appropriate humor at the appropriate time alleviates some of that stress and generates those good feel-good hormones and stuff like that when you're able to have a good laugh. But I'm also glad that you talked about the safety aspect of it as well. Right?
Oh yeah.
I can imagine how that could go pear-shaped quickly. But isn't it interesting how you said that if somebody is naturally more of that joker side, when they're not paying, it seem like they're not paying attention to it, then you adapt according to the personality and the type. So that means then that you're paying attention to the way people interact and how they interact with you. So it must be. How did you find when you're instructing the being able to read somebody like that and be able to, and how, I guess how what I'm trying to get at is how quickly were you able to nail, okay, that person I need to do this person I need to do that, and I guess a lot of that was subconscious. Do you think you were able to do that quite quickly?
I think for most people within the first couple of days, yeah. And I don't know, maybe I think a policing thing in general is reading people. So there's all that kind of background initially anyway, but within and there's trial and error. Probably you'd make it too lighthearted for the wrong person. You'd see them go off the rails and do something crazy, like, yep, that was my fault. So yeah, like I had the benefit of doing it for a lot of years in a row, and really kind of worked out what type of personalities need to be where and what works for them. So I really think by the end of my time there, whereas at the start we were losing people through, they can't do it. Towards the end, it was like I really felt like we could get just about anyone across the line.
Wow.
That we want to, with the right environment, having done the selection beforehand and things like that. So
gotcha.
There's a big difference, but also a big probably mentality difference. When I started at TRG, it was like cut them all and the survivors survive. Towards the end, where we're like, well, if they've got a good personality, what can we do to get them through? And I think we worked out some good methods to get the ones through that we need to get through. Yeah,
that's awesome. That really ties in nicely with what Nick was saying earlier about that environment. They've proven that they can drag their knuckles for the week or the 3 weeks, whatever it is, and now it's about trying to create that environment. If we've got the right people, they'll probably highlight themselves anyway, or the wrong people, they'll probably highlight themselves, which sort of leads me to this question. So what sort of qualities and traits are you looking for? Because I'm assuming that everybody will say, well, you just be a good person, be a good bloke, be a good person and genuine, and probably most of us will think that we're good people or say that we're good people. So I guess what would stand out to you? What specific, if you're able to sort of label those or name them, what specific traits really stuck out to you? Because that CQT training is still going to be arduous. It's still going to be difficult. There's still a lot of information. To steal Ryan Wilson's phrase, he said it's like drinking out of a fire hose and just trying to get all this information in. What would stand out to you about the individuals that make it through not only the selection but through the CQT stuff?
Just a good bloke, really.
Yeah.
I like that one. There is a good bloke clause, though, isn't there?
There is definitely.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to work out. You could see operators come through the CQT, and you have all different levels once they're in TRG. Some are absolute superstars, and others are pretty good, and others there's a variety. So I was trying to work out what makes a superstar. Not that you want a whole bunch of superstars in the team, probably, but the only thing I could pick, really, there's so many different things that happen on the CQT, and they need to be, keeping up the pace and learning and everything like that. But the biggest thing with the ones that became superstars was what they did after the CQT, which was where they just wanted to learn, they wanted to get better all the time. So it was just if I put it back to what was happening on selection and on CQT courses, there was tiny snippets of those people doing a little bit extra, a little bit more drive, and just doing tiny extra things where, on those courses, everyone knows they're being watched, except when they think they're not being watched. And they're my favourite times, when they forget. But the times where guys will think, yep, I've done enough, the DS will see me do that, and there'll be that guy who's in the background still doing the extra gun that needs cleaning, or the extra picking up something new, or and that it's only 1 minute 30 seconds a day, but it just carries on into the rest of their career, and they just become really good. So
brilliant, man.
Wow.
That's awesome. What a great insight and great tips, or great tip and advice for people, because you mentioned that sort of ties in with the other stuff that you mentioned, being in that environment where you don't need to tell people what, that they see that needs to be done, or that vehicle needs a hand to get their stuff unloaded, or they need hands with their weapons, or whatever the case might be. It doesn't need to be said. You see it, and then they go and do it. And then you get into an environment sort of separate to that, and all of a sudden I know it's done my head in a number of times, thinking, why aren't you? You can see that needs to be done, and then you'll go over and start and go, hey, do you want to? I guess what I'm trying to say is it still annoys me the need to have to ask people that can see something that's so obvious, but at the same time, I've sort of been learning that we've been exposed, I guess, to a large degree, and you, in your case, 23 years, to an environment where you've absorbed and developed those traits and habits. Whereas when I go out and then I've had a bit broader view and working with a number of people that haven't come from that environment, I can understand. I'm better able. It doesn't make me any happier, but I'm better able to understand. Okay, yeah, they haven't been exposed to that type of environment, so that's why I have to tell that person, hey, can you go and do this? But then at the same time, they'll go, well, I don't like being micromanaged. It's like, well, Blinken, get up and go do it.
So, out of interest, Joe, do your kids, do you think they pick up things and fill the gaps, or where are you at with it?
Actually, that's a great question. Funnily enough, I don't know I think my wife might have touched on it with Brian, but the kids definitely, when they know dad's home or coming home, or they hear the garage door open, it's like, boom, everybody's moving and their things are getting packed up, tidied up, moved, because they know. But that started from a young age when I was expecting them to do stuff like an adult when they were just toddlers. But now at this stage, now they're a bit older, I do expect them to be able to keep those. But so I have noticed that in response to your question with regards to our kids, they're sort of wired that way. They have their moments where sometimes I'll come back and I'll go, what the heck's this? And I catch them off guard. So those moments when they think I'm not there, because sometimes I'll come home and I'll park up and I'll sneak around the house and then come in just to see what they're doing. And then that's usually when I bust them.
So your home life is like a selection course.
I
will get through.
Yeah, you just need the obstacles in the backyard.
I've been watching the kids do burpees.
I'm surprised the kids. Actually, my youngest one, little ratbag, she padlocked the gates. So she cable tied the gates. She grabbed the plastic cuffs, stuck them through, and zip tied the gates closed. So I couldn't just put my hand through and open it up. I had to climb the gates. So they find it,
Did you nod your head and go, yeah, well played?
And then I told her to go cut those off. Don't do that again.
Did she put an alarm at the top of the...
Ruin it, they'll be booby trapping the next. Ruining my surprise. But no, that's interesting. Really good points, and interesting to hear about the qualities. I love that, just this overwhelming desire to learn, to get better all the time, doing the little things, doing the little bit extra. That's awesome. One last part that I got around the selection, for me at this stage anyway, is was it common for people on your selection and or the CQT to pull themselves off, or was it something that sounds wrong, so remove themselves from the
If
course?
they're standing in the dark for too long.
to remove themselves from the course, or to have instructors like yourselves that are taking them to say, hey, this person isn't suitable for here. And would you guys just say, your time's done? What was that sort of process?
It was 99% they'd remove themselves from the course,
Gotcha.
It was very rare that we'd go, we had guys that have cramped from day one and drag their cramped leg through to day 5. And you just go, man, there's no, you're actually holding up the course. So come back next time, but don't pull a cramp. That sort of stuff. But it was people. I don't know if this is different with the military side of it. To me, seems like people are that way inclined before they start the regiment selection. Whereas the policing side of it, I suspect we get a lot of maybe Call of Duty players and things like that sometimes. They do 3 burpees before they get there, and they're like, oh my God, and within the first hour we're guaranteed to lose 3. And every time I'm like, it baffles me. I'm like, well, I don't know what you thought it was. And they always say, I didn't expect that. Yeah, I forgot the actual question there, but yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah, it was around, whether or not they
yeah,
removed themselves or you guys, yeah.
that's right. Yeah, so they do remove themselves, and we lose a lot early on, not just the first hour, but the first couple of days is the majority
Yeah.
gone, and it's we've had ex-regiment guys do the TRG course, and obviously it's a lot
All right.
different.
Yeah.
But I have picked their brains about what they thought, and
Yeah.
it's physically as hard as you can go. So I guess there's a maximum. It's not the
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
being that it's only a week or 2 weeks, or whatever it's going to be. The regiment one to me seems like unattainable if your mindset isn't right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
almost day by day, minute by minute, or whatever it may be, not having done
Mm.
it. But the TRG one, you'll know in advance, like when you're going to finish.
You've got
So
an end date and
there is an ending, yeah.
Gotcha.
So there is that, but yeah, we definitely lose a lot in the first couple of days, and then you get a good core group that just hang in there, and you're not going to shake anyone, and then you're just testing for different personality traits and things. So yeah.
Man, awesome. That's so cool to hear. But also, absolutely a lot of similarities. I wonder, just hearing you mention that, people know that there's an end date in terms of the TRG one. I wonder if that would, not that I want them to change it, but I wonder if that would change I guess, people's mindset. People have a rough idea. They know it's 3 weeks, but even then, like you said, everything's a test. You're not sure. Is it really 3 weeks? Or now we're on day 25. Or am I on day 25? Or was it day 18? And you just sort of, you start to lose track of days and times. But I guess that's the rough time frame in terms of 3 weeks. But I love how you've shared and spoken about a glimpse anyway, because what we don't want to do here is obviously give away all the stuff that people are expected to go through, because I guess they can go onto YouTube and look stuff up if they want to. But really respect and appreciate what you do and have done, and what the people that have come in after you are able to do as well. I'm going to go back to, so we spoke briefly about SAW Consulting, and I'll get you to just sort of mention that at the end as well. But could you speak about the home building solution side of things? Because then I want to come back to your transition and probably just delve into that into a little bit more detail, how that's been. I'll get into that. But the home building solutions, would you mind speaking about that and what you do and why you got into that space?
Yeah, so home building solutions is about working with people to work out what they want as far as, it's all new home building. So really getting a good understanding of what people want, whether that's house and land packages or just a new home to build on their block, etc. The difference between that and the average, sales rep for a building company, which I have also done, is that you're not trying to pigeonhole people into like, that's what you want, great, here's the solution. So and squeeze you into that box of solution.
Gotcha.
There. It's to me, when people are building a new home, there's so many questions. It's so different to buying an established home, and it's a lengthy process which can be quite painful if it doesn't go right, or you're not with the right person that's helping you out, I suppose. So it's about getting people from A to B into their new home as smoothly as possible, running through the process with them, but also with an understanding of exactly what they want, finding the best person to do that for them, whether they're chasing, the absolute best price, first home buyers, $5 makes a difference, or whether they want really good value, quality, still for a reasonable price, that sort of thing, or single story, double story, all these different options, and all different builders, and different builders specialise in different things as well. So getting people into the right space versus forcing them into like, have this home, this is ideal for you, because people just don't know. Most people don't know if they haven't built before, especially they're not going to know whether what they're getting is good or bad. So it's just providing that service, done for you service from start to finish. Yeah,
Man, that's awesome, and so different. Well, the service aspect seems to be a consistent theme with you, Todd. First off, but that the businesses from the policing background to the SAW Consulting actually, when I look at the website, cool website, and the stuff that you guys do, even the way that's laid out, in my mind, it seems like something that is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, but seems like something that's quite a natural progression for you, particularly with your policing background and moving into that, working with small teams, specialist teams, and developing this great camaraderie, trust, and execution, all that sort of stuff that goes along with it. And then this home buildings, like I can see there's elements there, but the what the service that you're providing there again is probably the main thing that rings out for me in terms of trying to help these people, like you're right, who would have probably no idea. The vast majority don't know what they're getting into when they're looking to particularly build their home or a new home, or even purchase a home. So seeing that, and then coming back to your transition. So these are they seem quite distinct and different to me, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. How did you end up creating and developing both of these businesses, considering you only left the TRG or the police force in 2019, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so SOAR consulting, I was doing while I was in the police.
Okay.
So yeah,
You
we
did say
started
that.
that. Yeah, I didn't. It's interesting doing anything in the police because you can't. Social media is not a thing.
Yeah.
And self promotion is not a natural thing, that's for sure, because everything's just under wraps. So yeah, we just pretty much just went word of mouth, and we've been doing that, that way since. Haven't really pushed it for that, but to me, transitioning. So I know with the SOAR consulting side of things, it's great when the economy's going well and businesses are keen to develop their leaders and teams and things like that. The concern for me is when the economy is not going that well, that it's one of those things that's a bit of a roller coaster.
Gotcha.
While we build it up. But so with that in mind, I started getting some experience in the one of the TRG guys had left and gone into new home building with Dale Alcock Homes. So I started looking into that with him and getting experience, as in working for a builder there, and pretty much jumped full time into that from policing.
Wow.
And then went to another builder from there. But yeah, learning the ropes and learning how it all works through a couple of really decent builders, but really an eye opener into the whole home building industry. And you're right, it's totally different out of the box from policing and sort of consulting, but it was the income that would support me and pay the bills and all that from leaving. So it was definitely something out of the policing world. So good idea, good way. Seemed like a good way to transition.
Nice.
But then, like I say, as I went through the home building with different builders and things like that, and still help a lot of people get their new homes through those particular builders. You can see the gaps, and you can see where the builders love to get them in, and just like, you're coming with me kind of thing, no matter what's best for them. And you can see where oh man, you could be doing better over here, or this could work for you, or whatever. So that was kind of where the home building solutions came from. And I suppose my mind has always worked that way in TRG, and probably before that is like, this is good, but how can we do it better, was kind of the mentality.
Awesome.
And it evolved into that, like, if I can get these people and show them a better way to do it, then it's a smoother pass for them and a better result and things like that. So
Wicked.
yeah,
That's great, mate. Thanks for that information. And yeah, again, well, I mean, it just ties in with your level of service and what you do, and the way that's gone about. So the transition for you though, like coming from such a tight knit group, a small, numbers wise small in terms of the TRG, but extremely tight knit. The stuff that you've been able to do there. How did you find, and I realize it's only been but it's been a couple of years that you've been out. Have you found that easy, or has it been challenging for you from a personal perspective, purely, because of the relationships and friendships that I imagine you have there and still have there, and that environment? It's very different now, dare I say, slow paced, or much slower paced to what you've been used to. How have you found that, and how are you coping with that?
well, you're going to send me into a rage now, Joe. No, it's interesting. The guy I jumped ship and jumped into Dale Alcock Homes with initially.
Yeah.
He had been out a couple of years, and he was saying straight away, he goes, "Oh, how is it leaving? What's your thoughts on that?"
Yeah.
And I said to him, I've done 15 years TRG. I feel like I've done what I needed to do, so I don't think it'll be an issue. Like, it's different from me,
Right?
I'm totally different to everyone else that's ever done it, which is stupid. And then no, but I thought maybe I'd a bit older than him, and I'd done most jobs that could be done and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, oh, no problem. I think about a year into it, and I was watching a couple of sales reps kind of stab each other in the back over different leads, and like, oh, I spoke to this guy first, and I was like, oh my God, what world am I in? So that's when it started to go downhill a bit, I reckon. But I've always, when I first left, I always thought the one thing that I missed, it wasn't the jobs and the action side of it. It was the almost hanging out in the office in the lunchrooms and stuff like that, just hanging out with the team, or even between run throughs in training and stuff like that. It was just the hangout moments and that environment. And yeah, that got harder and harder after that first year, I suppose. And kind of I'd go through. Well, I heard one of your, I don't know if it was Kane Middleton that you spoke to, or one of the other guys that talked about, different reactions from people on the outside. One was werewolf, and one was
Dion Jensen.
Okay. I think I
with
put
the
myself
subconscious bodyguards, he was calling them. The werewolves and vampire ghosts and stuff.
I think I put myself in the werewolf one. I'll have to double check that again. But just I started, oh yeah, and I was, everything is a threat, because I heard one of your things. Everything is a threat. Oh man, you like, the awareness on the outside is great to have, but after a while, it's like, like that guy was just getting a drink from the bar. He wasn't going to kill that lady with an axe. So, so there was definitely that going on. I'm good at holding stuff in, but I feel like, levels of aggression at times, and I'm just like, I can't stop it, but I know it's happening. I'm just not going to bring it out on anyone. But waves of different things, and then one of the biggest things, full credit to you guys, for me, has been listening to the podcasts that you've done, and just hanging out with the guys was something that I think it was Kane that brought that one up, but he just said that was a simple part that he missed, and I was like, that's 100%. Like, so for me, wondering what's happening versus getting a good idea of what's happening is just so different, and it's helped me relax into it a bit more, and just know that everyone else has got these different things, and some of those things I tick the boxes for, and like, I'm in it with everyone else for sure, but just working through it, and understanding. So for me, the one thing that helps me through most things, and I don't know if this will work for everyone, but just getting a real good understanding of what it is that the issue is. So one of those things, as an example, like, I used to hate flying on commercial airlines because it's just a big bucket of tin in the air, and you'd hit turbulence, and I'm like, that's it, the wings are going to fall off. And tenfold when the kids are on the plane, I'm like, okay, so if this happens, I'm going to reach across, I'm going to hold them with a brace, and maybe they'll survive or whatever. But so many things about not understanding. And then I fly on you fly on a small plane, and you see the pilot up the front, and he's pretty casual, and he's pressing buttons and stuff. So I start to get an idea of what they're doing up the front, and you're hitting turbulence, they're just like relaxed as and whatever. So the more I learned about flying, the more I'm like, oh, well, that's, hitting turbulence and all that sort of stuff is part of it. So that's all good. Same with everything else, so the more I understand about transition and what everyone else is going through in transition, the more it helps me just really be clear, like, oh yeah, you're being a bit aggressive now, but there's no reason for it, there's no threat, there's no whatever, so move on. And it just helps me day by day just to find out more about it and move on.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Todd. It's awesome to hear, because you jumped in and dived into, I was going to ask you, so what sort of things have you been doing to help you in your transition process, and getting that understanding, and trying to gain a better understanding of those certain things is certainly something that I've found very helpful for me, trying to learn and adapt those things as well. But really appreciated you acknowledging or mentioning the podcast, because I think Brian and I have spoken, that's been part of the catalyst for us with creating this, not necessarily these types of podcasts, but similar ones where they've had people on that have got, everybody's got a story and got these experiences, and they've gone through these hard times, and it's been great to hear those. And that's been a real trigger for both Brian and I to delve into this and go, man, if we are feeling these things, and if we're struggling with these, there must be other people out there, and maybe we could try to provide some sort of information or insight through the people that we're lucky enough to have on, like yourself. So Mate, really appreciate those comments and thoughts, particularly around transition. Sorry, Brian, were you going to ask something before I...
No, I just find it fascinating. Well, yeah, kind of. I just find it fascinating, Todd, that you talked about that, but very candidly. So again, Joe and I really appreciate that, because I suspect someone out there is also feeling the same thing, the hyper awareness or the hyper vigilance.
Hyper vigilance, yeah.
Or and yeah, and that can have a profound effect. I can imagine if you're going from a policing background and you just. Yeah, you're always
100%. Yeah, your head's on a swivel. This is like
Have you ever tried to sit in a restaurant in the middle with your back to the
no.
Back to the wall. Back to the wall. Yeah, I was that kid in science class that I would want to sit at the back so I could see everyone in front of me. So just in case somebody mixed the chemicals incorrectly, I'll plan my escape route. It's like, what a weirdo. Anyway, so but to hear that and to be able to share that and articulate that quite nicely, I mean, I could almost feel, and I think Joe would agree with this, I'm pretty sure, can feel the pain, the angst behind it, but also the willingness to want to be able to, I acknowledge that this is happening. Okay, I need to be able to figure it out. And so, so again, tip of the hat to you, Todd. That's awesome here, and thank you for sharing it. I really do mean that.
Definitely. And just on the back of what Brian's saying, I think also you sort of alluded to, without getting blasted for showing some emotion, which does and can happen. And I imagine probably does happen in TRG as well, by the sound of things. What we're trying to do, and thankfully, hopefully you felt comfortable enough, it seems like anyway, to create an environment where our guests like yourselves can know that it's all right, but we can laugh at ourselves at the same time. With regards to those things and the mistakes that we've made along the way. And hopefully through our 40 odd years, or 46 in your case, and was it 50 something for you, Brian? With our years experience that we have, hopefully there's something that can help those coming through, or maybe those at a similar age. So appreciate that, brother. So for you, Todd, with regards to what you're doing now, and like with SOAR Consulting and with the home building solutions, what's next for you, my friend? What do you see? What are you planning? Are you somebody, obviously I would assume quite tactically, there's a lot of planning and strategy around, what's going to happen. Are you one of those that, do you have a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year beyond plan for yourself and in terms of your own development, I'm getting at here, and or for your family, those two aspects?
I mean, family is a big one. I'd like to be able to spend, get a good balance of spending time with family and working, whatever it may be. Because I always feel the urge to, start this and do that, and I can help out here, and there might be 5 things on the go. But I think family is a big one, and the kids are 12 and 14 now, so they're at an age where they still need me and care, maybe, but. Sure, they'll move on.
Yes, they do.
So I don't have like a strict 1 year, 5 year plan, and it was interesting. I've become addicted to your podcast. So I was listening to Harry Moffat. He's obviously a guru over here. It was interesting to hear him say he's got all his psychology background, his consulting and things he does, but he's still not sure exactly where it's going to lead, or what
That's right.
Future is. And I feel a bit the same. Like there's things that I can do to help people now, which is great. And every day I'm trying to think, where do I want to be in 5 years, or what do we want this to be, and how is this going to develop? And I haven't put my finger on 100% yet, so it's a bit of a mystery tour, and we'll see how we go.
We'll continue. Awesome, mate. And again, appreciate you sharing that, because I can connect and resonate with that. Like, that's very similar to us. People have kept asking us, well, probably not so much these days, but probably up till about a week or 2 weeks ago. Like, so what's the end state? What's the plan? What are you guys doing? It's like, bro, I don't know. We're just connecting with these awesome people, trying to help facilitate their experiences in a way that's natural for them, and we just trust and know that the listeners will do the rest. They'll grab what they want from your comments, just like we have from the others, and they'll hopefully, the key part is that they then apply them in whatever way, shape or form that is, that they feel is going to benefit them. So again, just a real testament to what you've shared with us so far. I do want to ask, because I like the before I ask that question, You spoke about, is it surf lifesaving or the surf boat stuff that you're training in? How did that come about, and what's that?
Strange how it came about. I suppose I got into surf lifesaving and even surfing from the age of 7 or 8, but we didn't live anywhere near the beach, so it was quite strange. It was we had our neighbours on the street we're on just happened to be, the dad was in the surf club
Right.
back in the day, and they were taking their kids down there, which was a reasonable drive from where we were. So our parents said, "Yeah, we'll take you down there," which is one of those moments in life, I suppose. End up down the beach every day since, but yeah, a lot of stuff now. Get time for a surf in the morning. That's awesome. But yeah, surf boat rowing has been doing that for about 20 years as well, on and off.
Far out.
So, which is always an adventure. That's one of those.
I bet.
It's an awesome sport for getting used to being comfortable in chaos, I think.
I bet.
It's called a surf boat, and you would have seen them, but yeah, they're not ideal for surf. They're just big. So you bounce around and you row hard, and then you get to the line, however you get to the line sometimes. So, but yeah, that's actually been a really good team environment as well, where
I was going to ask.
Yeah, where it's 4 rowers in a boat and one guy at the back coaching and steering, etc. So, but the 4 rowers are always totally different personalities, and it's a matter of making it work. And sometimes you have surfboat crews that implode, and they're all uptight, and they all have a go at each other and want to punch on. In fact, there's been a lot of punch-ons by the end of the year, but and other times you just it works perfectly and everyone's just happy, and the happier people are turning up together, the better the results they get. So there's a lot of similarities to other things there. And again, maybe it's just my natural characteristic, but my thing was just to keep it light when it was getting tense, really.
I can picture you being the larrikin or the comedian with the groups, just by the way we've been lucky enough to have your interaction with us today, mate. Appreciate it.
Yes. I try to be more serious sometimes, yeah.
Mate, I definitely think, I've definitely appreciated your comments, your thoughts, your experiences that you shared in here. Again, like with everybody, I've been scribbling down a whole bunch of notes when I hear you mention things that just sort of really resonate. And I'm really grateful that you've opened up and shared so much, even though it's only scratching the surface in terms of what you've done and been able to do. I do want to ask about, you don't need to say the particular affiliation or anything of this individual, but this was one of the events that really made Brian and I laugh out loud. A tasering event of a suspect individual, which resulted in this person falling off a building.
Yeah, normally I'd say I wouldn't identify myself, but I will this time. I was there, and I was up the front. This guy, he was as bad an egg as you get, and he'd just beaten up his girlfriend to the point of broken arms and broken legs and stuff like that. But detectives had gone to find him. They knocked on his door, and he'd ran off, jumped fences, and ended up on this random 2-story house on top of the roof. So we get called out there. They've got detectives are kind of surrounding the house, but it's funny when you're and we did a lot of small team jobs at TRG where you work with general Gs or detectives. Interesting to see what you get. You work with what you get on the day, because we'd have the house surrounded on all corners in case this guy wants to jump down one side or the other. Yeah. And then you'd look across and all the detectives are having a chat and having a drink in the corner. Like, who's out the back? They're like, oh, all right, whatever. We were there with the negotiator. Our main role was to support the negotiator so he could get up close if he had to and talk to this guy and try and talk him off the roof. Yeah. Of course, we had one guy with a beanbag shotgun looking really aggressive, and the biker kept going, he wants to shoot me, doesn't he? It's like, no, mate, he's all good, but he did. So
just a couple of times.
But yeah, we're kind of, while we're waiting and supporting the negotiator, working out a plan of how we're going to get him down if we have to. And it was quite a tricky one, because he's one layer on top of the other layer of the roof, so we had to get up on ladders to start with up to the first level. So this guy, I should mention the biker we were talking about, he was he was going through like, I'm going to kill myself, and he was slashing his wrists with a really blunt razor. So it was it was an intentional thing, but he had little marks and a little bit of blood coming out. So we with his safety obviously being a concern, we moved a bit closer. We got the negotiator to say, I can't hear you, mate, because he kept laying down and trying to faint and things. So the negotiator said, I'm just going to come up to the next level so I can hear what you're saying. So we got the fireys to put the ladders up, and we got up with the negotiator onto the first level roof. And so the negotiator could talk up there, go, mate, I'm just up here, so, just so we can have a conversation. And meanwhile, me and another guy were just below the lip of the second story of the roof. Bikey was perfectly positioned on our side of the roof, so if we tasered him, he'd come our way and we'd grab him and whatever. It was the perfect plan. So we each had a ladder, and we were because we were just below the lip and just below where this guy was. We couldn't say too much, but I made the call in my mind that I would get up on the roof as close as I could, and at the point where this guy knew I was there, we'd both taser him and I'd grab him because I was in a better position to do that.
And safely, gently bring him down.
Gently bring him down, yeah. So I did some finger things and some signalling, and well, this is what we're going to do to the other guy. And there was 2 thumbs up, so we both knew exactly what was going on.
Yep. Perfect.
Then,
clear comms. Yeah.
Clear comms. Yeah. And then at the ideal moment, I gave a yep. And then I'd just done that, and I hear this, and this other guy takes him straight over. I'm like, shit, I'm not even up there yet. So I've got up. I've zapped him with the taser as well at the same time, because why not at this point? And this guy, with 2 tasers going off in his back, he's managed to lurch up like he's getting away, throw himself over the ridge of the roof, and roll down the other side. And I thought, oh, that's bad. He's going to land on the first level, so he might get a bruise. And then he rolled off the other side of the roof, and I'm watching the taser wire feed out of the taser. It's getting longer and longer. And then I just see his legs. So he'd land on the first level on a shade cloth, and his head went through the shade cloth, and his feet stayed up in the air like this, and just went straight down. I'm like, oh, we've killed him with the taser. The wire is just about full length now. So I'm just like looking at my taser, turn it off, walk over, and one of the other guys, the TRG guys, had run around on the ground, and he's staring at this crumpled heap of a bikey, and he looks straight up at me, and he goes, it took him about, I reckon he looked at him for about 10 seconds, and he looks up, he goes, he's alive. I'm like, yes. That's good.
Thank goodness.
And then, this bikey, he woke up eventually. He was in a crumpled heap and got carted off in the ambulance bay. He's like, what just happened? He's like, and he goes, oh, mate, you just got tased. He's like, oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
So, you're right. Right.
But yeah, bad egg, and tough day. Like that would be a lot of paperwork if we killed the bikey. So
I bet it would have been a lot of paperwork.
But yeah, it wasn't the only job that's ever gone different. But we tried our best every time.
So Todd, the moral of the story to go on 0?
The moral of the story is maybe to discuss things because one is not visible to others.
Do we know the signals and the signals?
Walk, taser.
And then fall. Legs up, shake.
And on the other side, it's like, I don't know what you're saying, but yes.
The other side, all they got was taser. Yes, got him.
There's a lot of lessons.
Oh man!
Oh my God! Yeah.
Lucky the guy with the shotgun and the beanbag wasn't the.
Just to throw it in a little bit extra. Yep. And then we set him on fire. I don't know. It just seemed right.
Oh my goodness, we laugh here, but please note those that are in the TRG and the police, we're not really serious, It's just a bit of lighthearted fun.
Yeah. And only with bad people. But...
Bad people.
I guess is this where the disclaimer comes in? With don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah. Don't try
Double
this at
taser
home.
on a 2-story house. Yeah.
Then be the beanbag shoot and go around just sneaking a couple while he's there.
Yeah. Oh, there's other ones. We had a horrific one. He got everything, but what we were a little bit renowned for in WA, I think, for a while, TRG, was not shooting when shootings could have been quite more than justified.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I remember we had one job where we were looking for this guy, and we were going to go do his house like 2 days later, but he ended up getting in a chase with a couple of cops from a petrol station. And then we got word of it on the radio, and all started heading that way. But he'd basically been in a mad chase and got himself bogged in a laneway. And then he started firing off rounds from a shotgun at the cops and tried to come up and speak to him. So they've got to a better place. We've come up, by the time we got there, he was still in the car, still bogged, and he had 1,000 rounds of shotgun ammunition in the back of his car. So it was set for a long day. But we... even in these things, there's comedy. But I was in the armoured car for this one, and we were basically end up right on the tail of his car, just so he couldn't get anywhere if he did get out of being bogged and everything. Yeah. He was bunkered down in there, and we had the negotiator in the armoured car as well. So the negotiator's on the loudspeaker going, I can't remember his name, calling his name, saying, "Hey, just need you to come out of the car so police can talk to you," all this sort of stuff. And he's like, he's yelling abuse at us all day, and it went on for a couple of hours, but he'd yell abuse, and then he'd get a bit of gusto, and he'd start firing off a couple of rounds. But he knew, he would have known in his mind. He kept saying to the negotiator, the cops are going to have to kill him because he's not going back to jail, which happens a bit as well. But he would fire the shotgun off, just slightly right of the armoured car, or just avoid pointing it directly at police and that sort of thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
So he was borderline on what was going to happen, and then we basically had time to set up teams all around him, and we had gas and distraction grenades and beanbag rounds and all sorts ready to go. So on the signal with this negotiation going nowhere, and really is for his own personal safety, because it was like that, or he was going to end up getting what he wanted, getting shot. So we gave the signal, and just overwhelmed with just gas. Gas was just firing into his chest, and beanbag rounds, and we were from the armoured car. We were throwing distraction grenades into his back. That went, I think, 30 seconds of just boom, 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 and gas.
Guy Fawkes in his car. That's
what he gets. Yeah. I was like, whoa, extreme. So he eventually stumbles out of his car, still got the shotgun, and then he just half falls over with the shotgun and is down on the ground for a second, and the guys run in with gas masks and jump on him. We got out of the armoured car and grabbed him, whatever, and dust him off. But he got beanbagged from 30 centimetres away and things like that. But he survived, and we're squirting him down and getting gas out of his face and all that sort of stuff on the grass. And I just remember he goes, "Oh, thanks, guys. I deserve that."
I'm glad you agree.
But it was all everything. We do everything to avoid shootings, and we definitely had shootings, and some myself and all that he couldn't avoid. But it was always the policing mindset just precluded from doing anything else. Then it's going to be a shooting. But if there was a way we could resolve it, then so be it. So interesting, very interesting.
All right. Definitely, mate. Far out. Thank you for sharing those. I wanted to ask. I actually got a couple of things. Is it normal? Because I remember seeing. I don't know if they're regular police or maybe whatever they are out at the airports in Perth. They were armed and had pistols and Glocks and that sort of stuff. Are the regular police in WA armed? They're armed, eh?
Yeah. Unlike, I don't think they are in New Zealand, are they?
No.
Most of them, no.
Yeah.
Which is interesting with the the things you've had go on there.
Yeah.
In recent years, yeah. But WA's always been armed. We had a Barry Matthews, I think it was police commissioner from New Zealand, came over as our commissioner.
Right.
That was years ago, and first thing he wanted to do was get rid of guns, and there was I don't know what's
obviously met with resistance and said
with resistance, different culture. I don't know what's best, which way, one way or the other. I mean, police on the street, they get an hour's training with guns once a year, so it's tough for them, and I think that's why every high risk incident for them is just full stress, because they're really not trained for it. But they'll carry guns and they're ready deal with it, and so far so good. There's been they're always trained to, last resort. Sometimes they're trained way too much to never pull your gun out and all that sort of stuff, and that results in other issues. So it's a big agency, so.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. And what about, I forgot to ask, I was supposed to ask you this a while back during this conversation, but I'll ask it now. Have there been any funny excuses that people have tried to pull on you when you've either caught them doing something, whether that was during your general duties phase, whether that was, a speeding ticket, or whether it was, there's people trying to communicate with you at 2:00 in the morning after they've been drinking since midday, telling you how they pay in government funded and through their taxpayers' income, they pay for your wage and all that sort of stuff. Have there been any funny excuses or memorable moments that you can remember where people have just blurted out some sort of out the gate excuse, or where people have shared something that you've gone, actually, that was quite a good one?
I'll give you that. There's been quite a few where they've come up with something on the spot, and you're like, I know that's not true, but I just want to let you go.
That's really good.
Yeah, the one I remember, I don't know why, but it was probably because it was I think it was my first police interview ever, and I was in uniform, and you're basically released out of the gate of the academy with some theory knowledge and just no idea of what's going on, and you generally work with another guy or girl who's got no idea what's going on, so that's how you learn. And then I started, I was with a girl who was I'd done about 3 weeks on the street, and she'd done about 6, so she was a senior officer. We grabbed a guy who on camera, he'd picked up a newspaper from outside a newsagent, and he's walking up the street from Perth through Northbridge area, he's probably 500 metres from the newsagent. He's walking home with the stolen newspaper, basically. And then, that reminds me of another funny, sad crime story. And then I'll give you that one in a second.
Yeah, go for it.
So we've gone up, we've grabbed him, the cameras have called us onto him like it was a major issue at the time. And we dragged him into the police station in the video interview room, and given him, basically got the interview ready, given him the full caution, and you're not obliged to say anything. I still remember the words, luckily. And then started asking questions, and the girl I was with was asking questions first, and she was basically saying so what were you going to do with the newspaper? And he said, I was just walking up to the ATM to get the money so I could take it back to the newsagent so I could put the money on the newspaper. And we're both just weren't ready for an excuse. And okay. And she's handed over to me. I'm like, okay, so you were going to pay for the newspaper? She's gone, yep. And from outside the interview room, you hear these senior police officers go, what are you saying? And we're like, okay, so you didn't intend to keep the newspaper. You're going to pay for it. So that's not a crime, but let that be a lesson to you next time. You've got to pay for it. We're like, his poor excuse. We're just like, oh my God, you got me. I got way better at it from there, but man, this guy got off the stolen newspaper by just saying I was going to get money 5 kilometres away and walk it back. Give you that.
That's awesome.
But the other, talk about
what was the other one? Yeah.
Sad crimes that I've dealt with in my time. I was walking the beat with a quite experienced sergeant who he's done a lot of things in his time, and he's still in there. He does quite well, but he got promoted, so he started walking the beat again as part of his promotion. This guy ran past us in the mall, and he was sprinting through the mall, and someone from a shop had yelled out, "Grab him!" So I started sprinting as a young police officer that I was, and keen to run. And the sergeant was nowhere to be seen. I didn't expect him to keep up. That was all good. But then it was, because this guy had a good head start, I was probably 200 metres into my dash, and a taxi came past with the sergeant hanging out the window. He's going, "Hey, how you going?" He's grabbed the taxi and just told the taxi to drive. So he chased this guy in the taxi, and I was running up as fast as I could on foot. And generally, criminals are good for, they're good for 200 metres was a good effort from this guy, and then they realise they haven't trained for years. So I've crash-tackled this guy into the ground, and the sergeant's got out of the taxi about the same time, and his face is all bloodied, and he's skidded along the ground, all that sort of stuff. And we've dusted him up and gone, "Mate, what are you running for?" He's gone, "Shit, sorry, I've got this ice cream cone, and he had an ice cream cone from McDonald's with no ice cream in it. He just grabbed it off the counter and ran, and we're just we're just like, okay, you give us the cone, all right, you head that way.
Give us the cone.
You go that way. We'll never speak of this again. And, we couldn't even work out what that would be worth if that was a stealing. I was like, I don't know.
You should have taken that crumpled cone back to the lady that said, grab him, and go, here you go, here's your cone. Far out.
Put it in the evidence bag. Yeah.
That's hard case. And the part with the senior sergeant jumping, that's like something out of a movie where you see the experienced police officer jump in the car or whatever, and the other guy's running around, the rookie or whatever they refer to him as.
Yeah, the wise old bull. Yeah. So, no, it's all high risk what we do.
Yeah. Mate, I love how you've just, painted some of the there's certainly obviously serious side of it, but the lighter side of it as well, and being able to have a laugh at yourself and talking about some of these things. I know there's going to be a lot of value and a lot of laughter in these as people listen to them. And I'm going to listen to this again as well, just because these stories are crack up. But I also wanted to ask you probably the last couple of things from myself here is, how did you meet your wife? If you don't mind speaking about that, because she's a Kiwi, eh? Or
yeah, she'd been living in Perth since she was 7, I think.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And her parents had moved over. At that time they'd been here. They're living in Perth for 30 years, and they've just moved back.
Oh, far out.
I think they're locked down in Auckland at the moment, or nearby. So as soon as they got the travel bubble to get back, and they got locked down straight away. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, but her dad really wanted to get back with their relatives and things like that.
Yeah.
Before it gets too long in the tooth, and we were going to go visit coming up, but our borders haven't opened yet. So we'll put that off. I'll come and do some burpees with you when I eventually get over.
Yeah. I was going to say, when you come over, it'd be great to reconnect. Hey, you fellas might end up moving back here. So how did you two meet? Did you ask her out? Did she ask you out? How did that come about?
I think it's through surf club. So she'd been down there. She was,
right.
She's a gun swimmer, dare I say it. So she won probably the Rottnest swim and things like that.
Oh, far out.
Swim and
yeah,
she flies along, and I like to tell everyone that I taught her everything she knows.
Good call.
But yeah, she was one of these superstar swimmers, and I was rowing boats, and the two generally don't mix because the story with boaties is that they line you up against a wall and they throw bricks at people, and the ones that don't move are the boaties. And the swimmers are very civilized. So it's a weird combination, but after quite a few years of surf club, I think she kind of
couldn't contain herself. Yeah, she couldn't contain herself anymore.
Is that what is the saying? She's only human or something?
Yeah, she's only human.
I've got to check if she's around.
Next minute there's a frying pan comes it.
Her claim to fame is she's a little bit taller than me as well, but so she'll get me. But that's all right. Through surf club, she's met a lot of things in common, I suppose, and got on like a house on fire, and which is something I've, with her, it's been great, and we've been, through all sorts of things with kids and relationships, and like relationships do. But I think we're coming out the other end of kids are getting older, and we're looking at good holidays and things like that. So
awesome.
It's all worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's funny the whole New Zealand thing as well. Every time we've done national courses with TRG, every time I've dealt with New Zealanders, it's always been WA and New Zealand have just like bonded and found each other and gone. There's something about it, something about the casual nature or something. I don't know, but other states are a bit different, a bit more intense. But New Zealanders are awesome to deal with.
I think those are Victorians, aren't they?
Victorians in New South Wales. I didn't say that.
Brian's called them out.
I've called them out.
No, I remember. So the first national course I did with the TRG side of it, the Kiwis came along. We're doing some CBR was a big thing, so the gassing and stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone brings out their CBR suits, and the Kiwis are like, "Oh, let's get a couple of rubbish bags and take our arms." Like, oh yeah, there's someone that's poorer than us. But similar sense of humour, I like to think. But, it's pretty awesome.
That's a crack up, man. Far out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Hey, Brian, before I sort of wrap up on here, have you got any questions that you wanted to throw at Todd?
No, I don't have any questions, but man, I really appreciated the time. It's been so. I'm crying laughing.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, mate. Well, no, thanks, B. Todd, brother, I just want to, sort of take a moment to really acknowledge you and thank you for your time here with us that you've given with both Brian and I. Man, time has flown by. I just had a glance at the time now, but really enjoyed spending this time with you and grateful for you sharing and giving some of your time to us so freely and willingly. No doubt, my friend, there's value in your words that are going to help so many people that take the time to listen to this podcast. We've been receiving that so far already from the guests that we've been privileged enough. We feel very blessed to have on, and you being another one of those. Look forward to connecting with you in person when you guys come on over, or if we make a trip back over to Perth just to catch up with friends and that sort of stuff over there, including yourself. But it would be great to connect with you. My last question at this time before I just sort of mention and give you an opportunity to talk about your two businesses, just so that people know where to find them. I'll put them in the show notes and stuff in that as well. But we've been asking, or we've only just recently started asking some of the guests that we've had. So this series, In the Service of Others, Who Dares Wins. In the service of others, it's pretty plain and clear for us to see what you do and how you strive to serve others, how you have and how you continually strive to serve others. But what we've been interested in finding out and hearing is what the Who Dares Wins aspect means, because people that I've spoken with, it does mean and sort of means different things to different people. And I realize it's the motto of the Special Air Service Regiment, but its application in what we're doing here in this particular series, it applies to, in our view, anybody that's willing to, sort of take risks and put it on the line. And I guess I'd be really grateful if you wouldn't mind just sharing your thoughts of what that little catchphrase or Who Dares Wins means to you, and does it play a part in terms of how you try to apply or adapt those things to your situation in your daily life?
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant motto and one that I would never steal off the regiment. It's I love what they've done with it, and it's I think if you can have it in the background of your lifestyle in general, it's awesome. But for me, I'll put it into context with the STG guys, and anyone that wants to jump in. So for my own personal feelings, I know when you guys asked if I want to go on the podcast, and I know guys. They wouldn't know me so well, but I've had the pleasure of listening to guys like Harry Moffat and Nick before, and watched Joe punch people, destroy people in the gym and stuff like that. And any ex-SAS guys are on a massive pedestal to me in general. And when those guys are on, my initial thoughts are, well, what the hell am I going to offer, and what am I going to say after those guys, and with that sort of stuff. And then, Who Dares Wins is just about just going and doing it, because really the theme of the show is in the service of others, and if you're not willing to put yourself out there and no one is, then it's not going to help anyone. So that's where I was at, was just one, getting an understanding of the show, but two, what are they trying to achieve? Well, if there's 3 seconds of what I say that helps someone, like the things that your guests have helped me, then man, that's the way to do it. So jump in, get over the the fear factor that we all have of like, I've got nothing to offer, and just throw it out there, because I know for a fact that every STG operator over there has got mad stories, and you hear a lot of them, and whether you can talk about them or not, or just lifestyle things. So jump in and do it, and with everything like transitioning from TRG and all the things that I've done, I feel like the personal growth has been huge, but it's only been, I could have sat back and just got paid weekly and got sick leave as I needed and got annual leave or whatever, but the growth and the just jumping in and taking the risk and either winning or losing, but learning, you're only going to get it through jumping in, aren't you, head first. So awesome. I don't see any easy way to do it myself. So it's a great motto to live by. Yeah.
Wicked, man. Thank you so much, Todd. Those are beautiful things that you've just shared, and we really, really appreciate those. How can people get in touch with you? Where would they go to with regards to SOAR Consulting or the home building solutions? What's the websites or the links for those, mate?
Yeah, so the websites for both of them reasonably easy. So SOAR Consulting is SOAR Consulting, or one word, .com.au. And yeah, you'll find everything you need and contact details on there if you're interested. And
Yep.
Home Building Solutions again is Home Building Solutions, all as one word, .com.au.
Awesome.
And to be honest, I've got particularly interested in police and military if they're looking at home building, and even if they're interstate or New Zealand, whatever, and they're looking at investing in WA, then I really want to help them. And if there's a discount to be had, we'll throw that in because it's looking after those kind of groups. So if you don't want to deal with a salesman, like I can't do sales, I don't do that. But you want the answers and you want you want assistance. Even if you just want to talk on the phone, I'll give you a hand, and no problem at all. So homebuildingsolutions.com.au for that one. And there's a couple of Facebook groups of the same name too.
Beautiful, man. Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd. Again, brother, we really appreciate you, and thank you for your service and what you have done, what you continue to do, and continue to do not only for your family, but for those that you continue to serve and work with. Thank you again from both Brian and I for your time, brother, and we wish you continued success and all the best in not only the businesses with soarconsulting.com.au and homebuildingsolutions.com.au. We will be putting all that information and stuff in the show notes, and look forward to connecting with you again in the future, brother.
And just thank you to you guys, because like I say, what you're doing is 100% working, in case you're wondering. And it's worked for me. I reckon I've broken through a barrier just listening to the guys on the podcast and what you guys have to say. So everyone's so open and sharing on it. So it's working, and if you can keep it up forever, I'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, mate. And as always, we sign off respectfully. Who dares wins.